Welcome to the Rock Newman Show. It's the Rock Newman Show.
And now, the Rock Newman Show.
Folks, welcome back. This is our last hour. Today, September the 7th, from Busboys and Ports, the Langston Hughes Room. My guest in this hour, Dr. John Ellis. You've heard me say before, he's an adjunct professor at the University of the Pennsylvania School of Medicine, Department of Anesthesiology and Critical Care, Harvard University graduate. Harvard University, we affectionately call the White Howard. We don't call Howard the Black Harvard. Dr. John Ellis, welcome to the Rock Newman Show.
Rock, it is a pleasure to be here. It's a pleasure to be in D.C. I have three sisters who live here, one of whom graduated from Howard University and who remembers you as an RA from back in the day.
Okay.
But we won't go back that far. Uncles, aunts, extended family. I grew up in New York. I've been coming here all my life. Many wonderful family meetings and dinners here in Busboys and Poets. So it's a pleasure to be here.
Great to have you. Your story is truly a fascinating story. There's much to talk. We have an hour, but it goes by terribly fast. So I want to get into really many things. But part of what I'd like to do is to get into a little of your background in terms of you are a person today that has an incredible message. You, by example, a lot of folks talk the talk, but Dr. John Ellis has walked the walk. At one point, let me ask you, what was your highest weight?
My highest weight was 337.
337
and
pounds.
I'm 6'2".
6'2", 337.
Okay, so it's 337, and we'll talk a little bit about BMI. That's about 43. We'll talk about that later. Mm-hmm. And today, 205. And I've been able to maintain that for the last 3.5 years. And that's as a result of changing my habits.
Yeah, we're gonna get into all of that. Tell us a little bit about Dr. John Ellis. I want to kind of go back now.
You want to go back?
I want to go back and go like, where did you grow up?
I grew up in Queens, New York City, near Kennedy Airport, a place called Rochdale Village.
Okay.
Went to school, public schools and Catholic schools in New York City. Mm-hmm. Got a scholarship to a prep school in Connecticut. Okay. And went there for high school. And I was blessed while I was there to be able to get a scholarship to go study in Spain for a year. Mm-hmm. Now, people do a lot of that today, but in whatever that was, 1971, that was pretty unusual.
Right. Well, here's what I want to talk to you about as it relates to your issue of having been, if you say BMI, body mass index, as it relates to having been obese at one point. Obesity is defined in body mass index as what number?
Well, body mass index is a relationship between the weight and the height. So the weight divided by the height squared is done in the metric system. Quote-unquote normal weight is 20 to 25 BMI. 25 to 30 is considered overweight. And over 30 is considered obese. BMI is not perfect, and you'll find people who will say BMI means nothing. Right. I don't believe that. But let's think about Arnold Schwarzenegger, okay? When he was competing, I'm sure his BMI was up in the 30s, and he didn't have an ounce of fat on him. Right. And he had some help with that, too. Right?
Sure.
LeBron James, BMI is 27. You see any fat on LeBron? Right? No. Right? No. So it's not perfect. If someone is muscular, someone's athletic. But for most people, that BMI number, and you can go on any website, you just Google BMI calculator, you can see. Now, a lot of us, I have a dear friend, older woman, she says, I go to the doctor and they want to weigh me or ask me what I weigh, and I say, it's none of your business. Yeah, hello. And I'm like, no, this is important for the doctor to understand what's going on with you. So I guess BMI is not perfect, okay? Sometimes we call people overweight. Sometimes we say they're, under tall. But either way, that gives a good idea. There are other measurements. There's a ratio between how many inches you have around your waist to your hips.
Sure.
Your waist should be slimmer than your hips. The bigger your waist gets, that means more belly fat you have. And it's the belly fat. Now I'm putting on my doctor's hat.
Sure.
It's the belly fat that really gives the inflammation that can cause the heart disease and the stroke and the impotence and all of the stuff that can happen. So if baby got back, that's better than having it up front. Okay. And I get an amen from some of the people out there in the audience.
Right. Okay. Now, so where did yours start? And I want to give a frame of reference. I've struggled with my weight all of my life, so to speak. And I was a skinny little kid. I went at 7 years old for an emergency appendectomy. And the doctor at the time out in Clinton, Maryland, told my mother, said, he has to have it. I actually was blind. My appendix had burst. The sac had burst. Poisons had gotten to my bloodstream, and I couldn't see. Wow. Which, the little knucklehead kid I thought it was cool. I mean, I was trying to find my way around. They were all alarmed and everything. So I go and I have to have an emergency appendectomy. Now, the doctor told her at that time, he said, his eating habits are really going to change after this. And I don't know how scientific that was or anything else. I just know the story is true. And said he's going to gain a lot of weight. And I went from being a skinny 7-year-old to a chubby 8 and 9 years old. And from that time, I remember going into the Heck Company store and other stores and my mother having to buy me chubby clothes. Now, I thank God I was an obsessive participant in sports, all sports. So I guess, that kind of helped me along the way. Nevertheless, there's always there's a struggle. Now, I remember part of what was the Bible in our house. Finish what's on your plate. And I think that's so many in our community, that's, sort of scripture. Finish what's on your plate. So going back to your childhood, where did your weight issues begin?
Well, let me make a comment about the plates.
Okay.
Because back in the day, the plate was this big. Okay, right. The plate you were supposed to finish was this big. Yeah. Plate people trying to finish today has probably twice as much area on it. So our plates have gotten bigger. You think about the big gulp and all that stuff. Everything's gotten bigger. Fine. Going back to me, I mean, when you said going to the store, I took a picture there having to go to the chubby section.
Yeah.
But what's so interesting, so I was, and my sisters, there's a lot of obesity in the family. I was bigger than most of the kids in the neighborhood. But what's so funny is if I go back and look at those pictures today, I look like a regular kid today. Okay, most of the other kids in the pictures look scrawny by today's standards because we've all gotten bigger. But yeah, so I was, I was a tall kid. I was a big kid. I played sports. Not like you did, okay, but, regular sports, baseball, basketball, football. My dad had played, what do you call semi-pro or minor league baseball, okay? Dad didn't really have an issue, but his parents did. I remember being teased some, and, certainly that bothered me. And I remember one time, I think maybe one year I didn't play football, and my mother said to me or football season was starting, she said, I really like it when you play football. And I said, why is that, Mom? She says, because when you play football, you lose weight. I didn't realize, okay? But again, this activity that our young people don't have as much today can help. So I was bigger than most of the other people, but when I look at myself, I look normal by today's standards. So even from the beginning, in my life, I was usually bigger than most of the kids. Right. And I'm not just talking about tall, I'm talking about why. And I think that probably got worse when I got to college, because when I got to college, I stopped playing any kind of sport.
Okay. Now, let me ask you. So you're bigger, so this is kind of hereditary.
There's some
genetic, hereditary. And did you start then in terms of the family meal or at the table with what became an Achilles heel that lasted? And I asked that question again, given a frame of reference, using self-reference for myself. For example, we were never a family of, you have the meat, the vegetable, and the starch. Our starch was always fried potatoes for breakfast, some kind of potato for lunch, and some kind of potato in the evening with whatever else we had. and I am probably somewhere, if not a full junkie for potatoes, somewhere in that neighborhood of junkieism.
Yeah, I have to give my mother credit. So my mother's people from Charleston, South Carolina, and so she was, there was the fish, the okra and tomatoes and corn, the rice. Yeah,
getting hungry up in her. I'm glad I'm at Busboys and Poets.
Mom did a good job. I mean, if anything, I got more in trouble out in, I don't want to call it the street, but out in the world. Hostess Twinkie pies, that sweet tooth. That's the thing that got me in trouble. So, yeah, I would hear the stories, finish that food. My mother would make liver once a week, She would make turnips. I used to hate that stuff as a kid. And I was made to finish that.
Right.
But I think really more of my issue was not in the house, even though there were starving children in India, starving children in Biafra, and we had to finish the meal because of all of that. It was really the stuff that was out in the world.
This whole thing with weight, it is really must be a fascinating study for you in doing what you have done. And you have just an incredible website, howilost100lbs.com. Folks, go to that website. You will find morsels and snippets and volumes of information that will help you with whatever your weight challenges might be. How I Lost, altogether, howilost100lbs.com. But I was saying, it's a fascinating study, and even as we talk about this, and I thought about what, for example, my struggles have been. There are a couple of things that come to mind when I was talking about like childhood. I remember Oliver Gray. He was the fastest guy in the neighborhood, so he was cool because he was the fastest dude. He could run faster than any of us, and we all, loved sports. So he was a big shot. He said one day, he looked at me and said one day, "Boy, this boy is getting big," and he said it with admiration. And part of the psychology is the next time he saw me, I wanted to be bigger. So I remember eating more and more. That was one thing. The other thing, man, I went up to my aunt and uncle owned a little store in kind of Bear Joint. And I went up to a function they had one day, and maybe I was 10 years old at this time. And it was the first time I had ever seen shrimp. Well, one, it was just the sight of it was just beautiful. And then when I tasted it, I loved it. But my aunt slapped me on my hand and said, "That's for the special company. You can't have none of that." And something in my head was like, one day, damn it, I'm going to be able to eat all the shrimp that I want to eat. And I'm telling you, man, there's a period in my time where I think I consumed so much shellfish that, and part of it, it was a love for how it tasted, but I think there was a sense of defiance and how it all goes, what all goes into our craziness in terms of, the eating habits that we have.
Oh yeah, and I think some of that too is about reward.
Yeah.
Right? You're rewarding yourself for something you didn't have in the past. And I think a lot of us, life in 2013 is stressful.
Yeah.
And a lot of us reward ourselves and soothe ourselves with food, of all sorts. And for different people, it's different things. I mean, for me, I talked about the sweets. Cheese was something that,
I hate cheese.
And I love or loved cheese because I stopped eating it because I love it so much, right? But everybody has different things that they jones for.
We're going to talk about these Joneses when we come back. We're already up against the clock right here. This is the Rock Newman Show. Dr. John Ellis is going to continue to share his incredible example of having lost 120 plus pounds and kept it all. He's going to tell us all about how he did it and how you can do it too. Just a minute on the Rock Newman Show. Hello to all my friends in the DMV. I am Rock Newman from the Rock Newman Show. I want to tell you about the MGM Grand National Harbor, the most exciting project to come to the District, Maryland, or Virginia in quite some time. You're going to have great fun. Come on down, support this project with all you have. It is going to be wonderful for the area. We're going to increase our tax base. We're going to get funding for the police department, for ambulance, for fire, for education. It is really a project that is going to benefit our area. Folks, we want to support in a very strong DMV kind of way this great project from the MGM Grand National Harbor.
This is Leprechaun Tim Pohanka from Pohanka Nissan and Pohanka Hyundai. It's hard to be down on your luck when you're Virginia's first choice for new Nissan and Hyundais, but I need to sell 60 cars this week. Right now, I'll pay you big bucks for your good luck. Bring down any good luck charm you've gotten based on the sale price of the car you choose. I'll give you up to $4,777 off any nicer, newer car this week. Today, your lucky penny is worth plenty, up to $4,777 off any nicer, newer car you want. Stop moping and hoping you'll get approved. With my For the People credit approval process, the banks are looking to get lucky and lend to you, even if you've been turned down before. Bring me any good luck charm and I'll give you up to $4,777 off any nicer, newer car today. Hurry, once I get rid of 60 cars, the luck runs out. All offers require bank approval, so call us at 1-800-POHANKA, visit Pohanka Nissan and Pohanka Hyundai on Route 1 in Fredericksburg, or better yet, log on to TimPohankaForThePeople.com. And when we make a deal, I promise it'll be your lucky day. I'm Tim Pohanka, and I'm a leprechaun for the people.
And now, the Rock Newman Show.
Folks, welcome back. My guests, I'm telling you, go either while you're watching this, if you've got another computer sitting beside you, go to howilost100pounds.com.
LBS.
LBS. 100lbs.com. If you have two computers. Now, don't go there while you're watching us here. Watch the real deal and then go. This is live. Go to Memorex when we get done here. But it's a fascinating website that I think you'll really enjoy. You'll find a lot of information on. And we were talking before we went to break about sort of the psychology of eating and some of what I've identified as, you know, some of my issues and why I've struggled. And Doc was saying that, you know, we eat sometimes, obviously, you know, let's say to reward ourselves.
Right, and the other, and to celebrate. But the interesting thing is, back in the day, the food that we would have once a month to celebrate got to be once a week, got to be every day. We didn't used to. Most of us did not used to eat cake every day. Okay, I remember as a kid, it was a big deal for my grandmother to take me to Woolworths and sit at the counter on Saturday. I think that's how I got younger sisters, right? Because I'm the oldest. So Grandma would come pick me up and take me out to sit there at the counter and have a Coke that was probably, I don't know, 8 ounces, right? Or maybe have a little malted milk, and that was a big treat.
Right.
And now we have people who think, you know, it's normal to consume that stuff all the time. So we're constantly rewarding ourselves.
Yeah.
And I think part of it is because life has gotten, in a lot of ways, more stressful.
You know, you bring the subject up about proportions and size. And indeed, times past, the proportions were much less. You know, there was a lawsuit against the tobacco industry which, made a lot of lawyers rich. I don't know how many people actually benefited from it, but state after state after state went after those in the tobacco industry. And what was revealed in those lawsuits were really some intentional stuff, that they were putting stuff in there that they knew were addicting, that they lied for many, many years. Now, there's a whole nother subject about the U.S. government's complicity in that, and the political strength from the South that were tobacco growers and all that. It was criminal. It was criminal what the growers were doing, and the complicity of the government and allowing them to do it to destroy the lives of American citizens who was paying the government to look out for them. So there's a whole issue there. Now, there's a lawsuit years ago that I heard about someone trying to sue McDonald's. Well, I don't even know what happened in that lawsuit, and I'm just thinking about it as we're talking here. The food industry is absolutely culpable. Now, there's the body of wisdom that would say, we're all responsible for our own individual choices, and I understand that, and I'm a proponent of that also. Now, with that being said, the barrage and influence of the food industry on its direct impact on the obesity of the citizenry, if it ain't criminal, is ugly.
And I agree with you. I think it's a little more complicated with food than tobacco. Okay, tobacco is addictive, and it's hard to argue that it's good for you to smoke. Right. Eating is more difficult. You need to eat to live, and the question is then, what are you going to eat? Right. And so the content of the food has changed, added sugar, fat, salt. Food scientists sit and figure out what are the combinations of sugar, fat, and salt that are going to make you eat more and more. That is true, which is why one of the things I tell people is if you want to lose weight and maintain weight loss, you have to shop with a list in their grocery store and buy food that you cook. And I know that's hard with all the pressures and time pressures that we have, but if you buy prepared food, either in a restaurant or in the middle of the grocery store, the stuff that sits on the shelves forever, that stuff tends to be prepared in a way to make you want it. And they consciously do that. But there's another part. So that's the food side of things, right? They push that. And yes, there's the idea that I don't have to buy this stuff or you don't have to buy this stuff. And I do think there's some people that get addicted, to certain foods. That is true. But, I mean, there are other parts of this. And another part of the equation, you were talking about being an athlete, is physical activity. Okay. We don't have as much physical activity as we used to. And one of the reasons I point that out is Coca-Cola sponsored a study. Because they want to say, hey, it's not all us. And they sponsored a study that just looked at measuring how much physical work the average person did today versus, say, 1960. Okay, we do much less work, and they say the amount of physical work that we do, there's so much less today that it can account for a lot of the weight gain. So it's both of those that account for that. Think about, when was the last time you pushed a hand lawnmower? Right. Okay? Right. That's some work. Right. Push a vacuum cleaner around the house. Right. Okay? Most of us don't, now we got automatic vacuum cleaners, right? They got a little thing that goes around. All of the things that we do have been automated in a way. A lot of us have desk jobs, we sit. So the food is obviously an issue. and I just say, the thing is, you have to be reliant on yourself to read labels, because I don't care what the label will say that this is whole wheat Cheerios. Yes. Yeah, they put some whole wheat in there. Or it'll say gluten-free that. Big and blazing on the box. Right. Look on the side. What's the first ingredient? Sugar. Second ingredient, sugar. You see sugar. Fructose. Fructose, sugar. Right. Now, if you go in Whole Foods, they make it sound fancy, evaporated cane syrup. You know what evaporated cane syrup is? Sugar. Okay, so they make it sound fancy there. If that's in the 5 first ingredients, you have something that is probably not good for you to be eating on a regular basis. But they make it look pretty on the box. I don't know. I mean, with the tobacco lawsuits, I think it's very straightforward. I think it's going to be hard. I don't have any relationships with any of those companies. I think it's going to be hard to have those lawsuits.
Let's come back to you, and because you are a great example. When Okay, so you went to college, you did your thing. When did you start realizing? No, let me ask this question first. What was it that caused you to gain so much weight, and you're in the medical profession?
Well, that's a great question, and I think what that speaks to is that knowledge is not the answer. It also speaks to the fact that most doctors are not trained much in nutrition,
yes,
obesity prevention.
Yeah.
We are, for the most part, trained to treat disease when it happens.
Yeah.
So, for example, I practiced anesthesiology. Patient comes in, overweight, knees bad, needs a knee replacement. We know how to do that, okay? And the way the American healthcare system is set up, it pays to do that. Doesn't pay so well to sit there and counsel people and talk to people and spend time with them, and, you know, folks live in food deserts, and how do you address all of that? That stuff is more complicated. So, yeah, I mean, I had the knowledge. I was sitting there on a daily basis taking care of people with heart disease, from overeating, obesity, also a lot of smoking as a cause. And yet somehow seeing this stuff happening in front of me, right, doesn't necessarily make it, you know, from, how can I say, from the brain to really, to be internalized. And, you know, that work is stressful.
Yeah.
You know, I'm up there with patients having liver transplants, heart surgery.
And you're the person that is preparing them and sort of putting them under. Well, let me say something about that, because this anesthesiology thing. I've never been one to take drugs. Like, I never smoked weed. I never had any kind of, you know, illegal drugs or anything like that.
I won't comment for myself.
However, I like anesthesiology. I like anesthesiology because when I've had multiple surgeries. When I've gone under, I've always understood why people got high, because if it felt anything like I felt going out, I was like, damn, I better not even start one, because I do have a compulsive personality.
Are we going to talk about Michael Jackson? Is that where we're going?
Well, no, let's don't. So you were looking at these patients that were coming in with all these different maladies, and you as the anesthesiologist had to be personally hands-on with them. But that wasn't translating for you in that you were practicing behavior that was self-destructive yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, it's stressful work. I mean, I was working with patients that might have a 5 or 10% chance of dying. Big aneurysm surgery, things like that. Things can go wrong. Things happen quickly. Yeah. You know, these patients are going to the ICU. And, you know, I have since learned better coping mechanisms for the stress. But a lot of times after I had a difficult case, you know, I'd go down to that vending machine in the basement and get a Haagen-Dazs.
There you go.
You know, and that would, and you know, I had to learn other ways of soothing myself, as it were, rather than doing that.
And so you are doing all of that. You're making, obviously, bad choices. Were you one of those, because I'll testify, that Monday you was going to start it, the next diet, and then on the first of the month you was going to start, and then when the first of the month came, well, you really had to wait till that Monday, but there was always going to be a diet started next week?
Something like that. I think probably even worse was this. Start out the beginning of the day, I'm not going to eat. Okay, which is probably the worst thing you can do. I mean, I tell people all the time, eat breakfast, eat healthy stuff before you get too hungry. So rather than saying next month I'm going to start, I was like, today I'm not going to eat. Period. Right. Well, you know, then by the end of the day, it's, you know, trying to shove everything you can in your mouth.
End of the day is Right. Tell me what was. What was that?
For me, pizza. Okay. You know, in Chicago, deep dish pizza. Pizza's, you know, I don't know, several inches deep. And guess what? You can now call up, or today you can go online, right? www.senditover. Right? And you don't have to do anything. Right? It just shows up. Right? There
so
you go.
give me an example, and I'll give you one of mine if you like.
Right.
But give me an example of sort of, you know, one of your best, worst days. And by that, I mean, you know, whatever the stress was, you know, that had you where you were jonesing.
Right.
And you're going to satisfy this Jones, and you consumed what? What was one of your biggest consumptions that you can remember?
I can just think about going down to the hospital cafeteria and getting, you know, 3 scrambled eggs with 3 sausage. You know, that would kind of be my 11 o'clock thing, couple of Haagen-Dazs in between cases. The other bad thing about a hospital, this is changing some now, is you're captive. I say being in the OR is like being in Vegas.
Yeah.
There are no windows, the lights are always on, things are always busy, and they're pumping oxygen in.
Right.
All right? You can't leave that often. So the people who sell the equipment and the drugs and stuff know that, and they bring food in.
Yeah, some of the worst food.
Some of the worst food. So every time you walk by, ooh, the ortho people brought this. Ooh, these people brought that. Yeah, come on in, we got this. And, unless you make plans. I used to kid one of the guys I worked with. I said, you bring this little paper bag with your sandwich in every day. We probably save a couple $100,000 over a career by doing that, buying food. But also he's like, I got to bring this food with me because otherwise I'm going to eat whatever they put in front of me.
Right.
And a lot of us have work environments like that. So, what's the worst? I would say was that pizza at night, that big deep dish pizza that I would call and say, well, I'll have some today, and then I'll have some tomorrow for lunch, and somehow it would not make it
wouldn't make it through the night.
Wouldn't make it through
You
the
play
night.
that Gladys Knight song, help me make it through the night. Right. And you had to wash it down with something.
This is a funny thing. I liked to drink grapefruit juice. Now, most people say grapefruit juice is bitter. I loved it. I drank a lot of it. It's full of sugar. I mean, people talk about the grapefruit diet. People talk about the grapefruit diet. Anything in excess, right? It's like, I would drink, a half gallon of grapefruit juice every day. So that's what I would wash.
That you got off the shelf, not that you were sitting there squeezing.
Right. Listen, if you eat a grapefruit, right, that's not bad. That's good for you.
Right.
And you got to work and you get all the fibers. When you go to the store and you get that stuff that's been processed and spent, there's no way I could eat, in that grapefruit juice, there was probably, 12 grapefruits that went into making. There's no way I could sit there and eat 12 grapefruits, but I could sure sit there, go, and drink the juice. That's one of the things I say to people. Eat the fruit. Try to stay away from the juice.
Just stay away from the juice that you get from the store.
Yeah.
Right. And so, okay, so you're kind of doing all of this of what you do, satisfying these Joneses. You got to be 337 pounds.
Correct.
What was the light that went off that said, oh, hell to the no, we got to turn this around?
There were a couple of things. Number one was just a generalized thing. I developed sleep apnea. Sleep apnea is where the structures in your neck shut off while you're sleeping. People who snore are more likely to have sleep apnea, but not everyone who snores has it. It's not just snoring and making noises. It's the cutting off. And when that happens, you get less oxygen to your brain.
Right.
And you wake up, your body says, what the hell is going on? Wake up. Don't sleep well. So I had this sleep apnea. I was tired all the time.
Yeah.
I was prescribed a mask. It's called the CPAP mask. It's continuous positive pressure that's supposed to blow and keep your airway passages open. I couldn't tolerate it. I couldn't sleep with it. So I was tired. You talking about being sick and tired? I was just tired all the time. That was number one. That's a sort of general thing. And I started thinking, well, maybe I need to have stomach stapling, gastric bypass surgery, because that would help me lose weight and help that with that. But there was another specific thing that happened that really said, I got to do something about this. I went to Rockefeller Center in New York City just before Christmas with some family members. You know where they have the ice skaters?
Sure.
The ice skaters. And we're having lunch watching the ice skaters. And I sit down in a chair. And then next thing I know, my behind is on the floor.
Oh, Lord.
On the floor. Loud crash sound. Everyone, what happened?
We just had a boxing fight on in the first segment, so you knocked out the chair.
I knocked out the chair. By the way, much respect to the Spinks. I'm sorry I didn't hear the whole story there because I really admire the brothers. On the floor, tremendously embarrassing. Tremendously in front of I don't know how many people, more than are out there in Busboys and Poets right now. And I said, oh, my God, this is this. So that was a seminal moment in saying this has to change. And then I had an uncle, Howard University medical school graduate, who said to me, John, you're not going to be around if you continue this way. So you got to do something about this.
That was your moment to say there had to be a change. We're going to come back and talk about what that change was.
Okay.
In the next segment of the Rock Newman Show, after these few messages. Stay tuned.
drives a bull handcuff. The weekend is here, and no matter what the weather's like outside, you'll find the deals inside here in the beautiful showroom of the all-new Pohanka Hyundai in Capitol Heights during their giant Markdown Madness sale.
Smart shoppers know that every new Hyundai in Pohanka comes with Hyundai Assurance and America's best 10-year, 100,000-mile powertrain warranty. But why don't you tell them about the Markdown sale, Joe?
I'll be happy to, Kim. Folks, shop around on the web, and you'll see lease payments on a new 2013 Elantra GLS at $179 a month. Today at Pohanka Hyundai, $99 a month. That's right, a $99 payment on a brand new Elantra.
And $89 a month on a new 2013 Accent GLS Automatic. How do they do it, Joe?
It must be the volume, Kim. A brand new building, hundreds of new Hyundais, and Pohanka's low payment and easy credit programs are designed to get everybody driving. But you have to get here today. Rush to the giant Markdown Madness sale at exit 13 off the Capitol Beltway.
Pohanka Hyundai, king of the Beltway. All financing for a limited term on approved HMF credit.
My baby drives a bull handcuff.
Hello to all my friends in the DMV. I am Rock Newman from the Rock Newman Show. I want to tell you about the MGM Grand National Harbor, the most exciting project to come to the District, Maryland, or Virginia in quite some time. You're going to have great fun. Come on down, support this project with all you have. It is going to be wonderful for the area. We're going to increase our tax base. We're going to get funding for the police department, for ambulance, for fire, for education. It is really a project that is going to benefit our area. Folks, we want to support in a very strong DMV kind of way this great project from the MGM Grand National Harbor.
And now, the Rock Newman Show.
Hi, folks. Welcome back to the last segment of the Rock Newman Show. I have in studio Dr. John Ellis, adjunct professor, University of Pennsylvania School of Medicine, Department of Anesthesiology and Critical Care, and someone who weighed 337 pounds and now is down to what?
206 today.
206. So the calculation, that's 221 pounds.
Well, 126.
I mean, 120, what am I talking about? It's 126 pounds.
Yeah.
126 pounds lost, and has kept it off now for about 3.5 years. And we're talking about all things nutrition, health, and weight loss. And, you know, I read something at one point that said that it really should be defined as not losing weight, but getting rid of it. Because you lose something, you want to try to find, you know, that means you might want to look for it some more. And when you lose weight, you don't want it to come back.
Yeah, you know, and a couple of things about that. There's some people who say in sort of the obesity treatment world that the first thing we need to do is not gain weight. Because, you know, I had a trajectory of going up and up. So first you want to stop the weight gain,
yes.
Right? That's number one. And, yeah, I mean, if you're losing something, in some ways you have to replace it with something else. Mm-hmm. All right? So if that is walking, if that's taking up a sport, you know, you were a baseball player, you know, that may be harder to play organized, but maybe join a basketball league. You got to substitute something else for the joy that you get from food. That may be time with family. Instead of saying the family's going to sit down and eat this big meal and go lay on the couch like we used to do when I went to my grandma's house on Thanksgiving, right. You know, we're going to eat a little meal and we're going to go for a walk in the park. Mm-hmm. So yeah, you need to have substitutes.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so right now, those of us who continue today to struggle with weight, let's start to talk about, in the time that we have left, your suggestions and recommendations Somebody's out there is 5'9", 5'10", and weighing 275 pounds. Man, woman doesn't really matter. And they know that, and like you said earlier, it is not enough to have the knowledge, because you clearly, as a medical professional, had the knowledge that the choices that you were making to go down and do the Haagen-Dazs and pizza after your procedures, on an intellectual, academic level, you clearly knew that that was counterproductive and sabotaging yourself. But you kept doing it anyhow.
Right.
So, talk to us about how you changed that around, and how those of us who haven't found that formula to make those changes yet can do so.
Okay. I was fortunate. I was thinking about getting the gastric bypass surgery, and I'm not against surgery. I think there are people who get big enough and have enough medical problems, and they get stuck where that may be useful. I didn't want to do that. And I was fortunate enough to be able to go spend 2 weeks at a weight loss program in Durham, North Carolina.
Do you talk about it?
Structure House. Yeah, I have no relationship to them. But, not everyone can go away for 2 weeks and go to the treatment center. They got a book. Mm-hmm. Read the book. Mm-hmm. Structure House. You can go on Amazon or wherever. Structure House. And they were about planning, not willpower, planning. And that's a lot of what I've tried to put into my life. So that means eating earlier in the day.
So did you make a distinction between willpower and planning?
Distinction between willpower and planning. Mm-hmm. That is, all of us have a limited amount of willpower. Right. All of us, and life is stressful, and if you don't know ahead of time what choice you're going to make when you're stressed, you choose the Haagen-Dazs bar. Mm-hmm. If you plan, and I know, and my friends laugh at me, I eat the same breakfast every day.
Now.
Okay. Now. So I don't, and I eat it early. I don't have to think about that. Right? I know what I'm having for breakfast. There's no decision. I don't have to waste brain time or anything. I know what I'm having.
And that is what? That is what for you?
I have oatmeal with protein powder, cinnamon, and cocoa to give it flavor. Plus, both the cinnamon and cocoa are healthy things.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Skim milk. Sometimes hard-boiled eggs, something like that I can have early in the morning that has some protein in it.
So the most important thing, element you're saying in terms of planning, is to have a plan.
Is to have a plan, right. To know, and some people recommend that at least one meal a day, you know what you're going to have. You keep it the same every day. You may vary others, but have one meal a day picked that's going to be the same. That's number one. Number two, I talked about shopping and cooking, having good choices in the house, right? So that you can cook stuff, maybe in the freezer. Stuff doesn't go bad. It's in the freezer. You can pull it out. You can cook it. So certainly planning is an issue. I travel a lot. I travel with food. Folks laugh at me for that, but I do that because it's important to me. I have so much more energy now. Right. I think my thinking is clearer. I like this part of my life. I can do more stuff. I can be more active. I can go hiking and stuff I couldn't do before. Walk all around this city, other cities, is a wonderful thing. So, but having a plan is key. That's number one. And part of the shopping, as I said before, is to shop for food that is what's described typically as on the periphery of the store, the produce. Right. The fresh meat and stuff. Right. The stuff that's in the middle of the store, that's in the big, pretty boxes, that'll sit on the shelf forever, is probably not the best for you. So that takes time.
As in, probably not the best for you, because if it's in the box, if it's in the can, there's a whole lot of processing going on.
Exactly. And I'm not going to say I never eat canned. Sometimes I eat canned vegetables, I eat canned beans. You got to do what you got to do. Right. I realize that people have constraints of time, but it's and going to a restaurant. I was able to order salad here in Busboys and Poets and ask them, I don't want the dressing. I don't want the little fried noodles that went on there. Please hold that. And most people will accommodate you. So, but again, I walk into the restaurant, I kind of already know what I want. I have a plan. This is what I'm going to ask. And sometimes I don't even ask for the menu. I just say, can you give me this? Or what's the closest you can give me to? And one of the things, I eat lots of vegetables. Lots of vegetables. I eat a pound of veggies at lunch and a pound of vegetables at dinner.
A pound?
A pound.
Wow.
A pound. And I know a lot of people say, well, that's expensive. I can't afford that. I go into my local store, cabbage, 49 cents a pound. I eat sweet potatoes. Right? White starches, in general, go to sugar very quickly.
Right.
Sugar goes high. Sugar falls fast after
potatoes.
that. White potatoes, white rice, white bread.
Bad.
Better off.
Good than
brown rice. Sweet potatoes rather than white potatoes. Sweet potatoes don't give you that sugar high as much, which is probably why you don't like them. And when I eat the sweet potatoes, I eat them without the candy. Some people
understand.
Just sweet potatoes. Sometimes I'll put some cinnamon on there to give it flavor. That gives it a little sweetness, and I enjoy that. Now that's hard at first.
A pound of vegetables.
A pound of green vegetables.
So when you and I go out here,
right? I got my food waiting for me right there.
I'm just talking about something else. Though. When you and I go out here and have lunch,
right?
And I order the catfish that comes with the collard greens,
right,
and the corn cake,
right. So
what I have to do is order 3 or 4 of those catfishes and corn cakes, so I can give you enough to make for a pound of green vegetables.
Or what I say to them is, listen, I want this. Now, can you give me a side extra of greens? Can you give me a double order of greens?
Right. Now, you said you brought your lunch with you.
No, I ordered.
Oh, you ordered?
I ordered from Busboys. It's just sitting there as soon as we finish.
Okay,
I'm on it.
You're going to throw down.
Eat early and often,
Okay, now that's another thing that certainly is emerging that the, thought is, it used to be 3 hots and a cot,
Right.
But that was when there was, as you said, so much more physical work being done. And pretty much you hear nutritionists and trainers now to say the more ideal way to eat in terms of your body metabolism and everything else is multiple small meals.
Yeah, I think, Pete, that's going back and forth, and it may be different for different people. I know for myself, I try to keep from getting hungry. So that means I eat my breakfast, my oatmeal, and then around 10 o'clock, I get hungry. I have a piece of fruit.
Okay.
And then I eat lunch around noon.
Now, I know you love pizza. You said a piece of fruit, not pizza fruit.
Yeah, a piece of fruit. Right. A piece of fruit. Yeah. A piece of fruit, then eat my lunch, usually something between lunch and dinner. If I get, again, I have done this without going hungry. I changed what I ate. Okay? So you eat that pound of vegetables, that's going to fill you up.
Right.
And you get used to that.
Right.
Now you got to spice it up. Onion. Peppers, garlic, hot sauce. Okay, people say hot sauce is full of salt. There is more salt in a piece of bread than there is in hot sauce. So hot sauce has some salt, but that hot pepper slows the metabolism, actually gets the brain a little high. Okay, who likes hot sauce out there?
So,
all the hands go up.
Everybody in here.
Everybody, right. So the hot sauce, that for me, but all of those spices, giving flavor with spices, not sugar, fat, salt. So I eat meat, a little bit, mostly fish, some poultry. I'm not vegetarian. But if you look at Iron Mike Tyson, lost over 100 pounds. He went vegan.
Yeah.
Okay? Bill Clinton. Had heart attacks, heart surgery, all kinds of stuff, went vegan, lost a bunch of weight. His daughter shamed him and said, Daddy, you need to look better for my wedding. Right. Chelsea got on his case. He went vegan, lost a bunch of weight.
Sure.
So I'm not vegan, I'm not vegetarian, but I eat lots of vegetables. Greens, sweet potatoes. I call it the Mandingo diet. That's, I have a young lady who works for me who's born and raised in Senegal. That's what they eat. They eat that okra. They eat that rice. They eat a lot of vegetables. If they eat the sweet potatoes. If we went back to eating like our roots back there, as well as back here in the South, I think we'd be doing well. A lot of folks think today that McDonald's is a normal meal.
Right.
And that's not what we have eaten for most of our history.
Bad stuff. So if folks go to your website, what's the greatest value that comes out of a visit to your website?
Well, I on the website and also on the Facebook page, I post different things. Sometimes it's sharing my own experience. So, for example, I tell that story about breaking the chair in Rockefeller Center and how that helped me get started. And other times...
Now, when you fell on that chair, did you actually fall on the ice?
No. This is inside. We're watching the skaters. Right.
Okay.
I even think
did you get up on your own? Somebody had to help you up? Or?
I was too embarrassed to remember. I do think some of the skaters stopped skating so they could see what was going on inside. Made me lose my place there, Rock.
Yeah, that's all right. No, we were talking about going to the website.
Yeah. So I'll tell those stories, right? And then, there's a whole lot of stuff in the media about obesity, weight loss, health, et cetera, that I will try to, give some interpretation of. Because one of the challenges is, and I know this because I do medical research, is that one study will say one thing, one study will say another, and try to discuss why that may be that you read different results, or different things may apply to different people. And then I'll give specific, recommendations. Like, for example, one of the reasons, and Black and Hispanic folks are more obese than the rest of the population. And I focus particularly on folks of color in this country. You just had the March on Washington here, and two of my sisters went, and they said, to see the people struggling to walk. Right. That we got problems. We got civil rights problems, but we got health and wellness problems as well. And I'm looking at pictures up on the wall there of people marching back in the day. They could walk. I saw a lady the other day. I was ordering a salad in a bodega in New York, and she told me, "You eat that?" And I said, "Yeah, my belly used to be out to here." And she says, "Oh, well, okay, if I eat that," I say, "Yeah, you got to have some protein too, some meat, some beans, some fish or something." And she said, "What else do you do?" I walk. She said, "I hate to walk." You hate to walk? What would they have done in Montgomery during the bus boycott if people couldn't walk?
It's a problem they hating to walk.
Right. We had to walk.
It's interesting you bring up how it's a yin and yang in terms of the medical research, because today something is good for you and tomorrow something is bad. One of my many Achilles heels is chocolate, for example. And so I was off chocolate for a minute, and then I read this incredible report about chocolate wasn't so bad for you. As a matter of fact, it was good. I was right down to Haagen-Dazs, got that Swiss chocolate, got that chocolate almond, and of course I knew that was wrong, but it gave me just a wonderful little excuse.
Well, you see, there's the chocolate and there's the Haagen-Dazs. Right. And I eat chocolate. I try to eat dark chocolate. 80% plus. Now, if you're not used to it, can taste a little bit of milk chocolate. Stay away. White chocolate is not even really chocolate. Okay, so forget that. And that's why I put the cocoa powder in my oatmeal. I get that taste. It's good for the heart. It's good for how you feel. So I'm not going to tell people not to eat chocolate.
It sounds to me like the central theme coming out of your life experience here. And, again, you're not some lifelong, hardly thin guy that's writing a book. You understand a lot of the psychology of the addiction to food. You've lived through that. For the most part, you've conquered it, and certainly, behaved in a non-addictive way, because it seems to me that's ultimately what it is, of behaving in a non-addictive way. Again, we recognize on an academic level that when we have that fifth piece of fried chicken, that really is not a good thing to do, but we have it and we enjoy it. So when we do that, that means you are practicing really a self-destructive, addictive behavior. And it's about backing up from that and moderation.
Moderation, and again, I'll say planning, not willpower.
Planning.
Okay, so if I'm an alcoholic and I'm trying not to drink, maybe I don't need to hang out in the bar all night long, right? Maybe I need to go to the bowling alley. Now, they'll still be drinking in the bowling alley, but there's something else going on there. Or maybe I need to go to the movies. It's the same kind of thing. I try to keep myself out of, for lack of a better word, dangerous places. The other thing is that I've learned how to have conversations with people. I appreciate you've made this wonderful meal, but because I no longer have high blood pressure, which I used to, I no longer have sleep apnea, which I used to, I no longer have prediabetes, which I used to, with all due respect, and I love you and I feel your love for me, but please, I'm not going to eat your food. And having to get comfortable with that. Because a lot of people are like, ooh, I can't make Aunt Martha upset here. Aunt Martha cooked this for me. I got to eat it.
So now you were 337 pounds and you started to come down. You started to make, much better food choices. Obviously some exercise, introduce some exercise into your life. Now, when did those things start to disappear, such as the sleep apnea? And again, the sleep apnea that you're talking about is a malady where folks wake up like they're choking and there's less oxygen to the brain. Ultimately, you wake up in the morning feeling much more tired.
Correct.
So your weight loss, you feel corrected that?
Yeah, I would say that, and I know this from my medical practice. When people have a gastric bypass operation, they lose 20, 30 pounds, their sleep apnea a lot of time gets better. Their diabetes starts to get better. So I would say I noticed a difference after probably 30 pounds that I was feeling more energetic. I didn't seem to be having as much sleep apnea. Probably, got rid of the sleep apnea after losing about 100 pounds. But, every little bit helps. I mean, the other thing for me is that just the brain is sharper, and there's studies that show this, that as you lose weight, your brain functions. Now, some people who know me best might argue with that, but, at least I feel that the brain works better.
Okay, all week long, knowing, we were going to have you on as an anesthesiologist, part of what I've got to ask you, I mean, folks, I hope you've gotten a lot from this conversation here today about, a real life story about someone who's gotten a lot healthier, lost a lot of weight, and is as I said, a real example. I want to just ask you something. When we have surgery and when we have anesthesia, when we have anesthesia, what the hell is it that feels so good?
It is.
Can you explain? Just explain that to me.
It is probably propofol. Propofol is the white stuff. Oh, well, no, let's break it down. I hope we have time. So people say, oh, propofol killed Michael Jackson. Yeah. Propofol did not kill Michael Jackson.
Okay.
Propofol given in a situation that is not designed for and not monitored in the proper way results in. The reason trained professionals like me use those drugs and do years of training is because in the absence of proper management, they can be dangerous. People stop breathing, etc. When you know what you're doing and have the equipment and the monitoring, anesthesiology has gotten exceedingly safe. What probably feels good to you is the propofol. People wake up feeling kind of euphoric. And so that's what Michael was saying. Hey, I don't know if he went for plastic surgery, had this, and said this feels great, and says I want this forever and a day thereafter. There is no role for propofol outside of an OR or a hospital or surgery center. Okay?
There's a great role and a need for Dr. Ellis to be on the Rock Newman Show today. I really appreciate you coming here. This is very informative. Folks, I hope it helped you. It has helped me. And again, I want to say thank you.
And I want to thank Mia Thrash for hooking us up.
Yes, indeed. Thank you, Mia. Next week, same time, same place, The Rock Newman Show. Folks, have a great day and a great weekend.